Hi, and welcome to Immigrant Faith Stories. Our guest today is Sioni Rodriguez. Sioni was born in India, but moved to Costa Rica as a young girl and then emigrated to America when she was an adult. Sioni is a survivor of human trafficking and domestic violence, and now she's a fierce advocate for victims of human trafficking, sexual assault, and domestic violence. She's associated with ministries such as Project Rescue Ministry and A Time Beyond Survival International Ministry. As a speaker, she raises awareness on these issues and speaks at high schools, churches, conferences, both in the country as well as abroad. She is also an active coordinator in the Angel Tree program, which is a ministry that serves families of the incarcerated. Sioni became a chaplain through UniPass in 2012. Along with her husband, Richard, they both serve as leaders of the prison ministry in their church, which is the Pleasant Valley Assembly of God Church. And she's also the leader of the women's ministry at her church. Sioni has authored 2 books, 3 Times Sold and Rebuilding What Was Destroyed. So welcome to the show, Sioni.
Oh, hi. Thank you so much for having me in your show. Praise God for that.
So tell us about your ethnic background a little bit.
Well, I born in Mumbai, India, and I grew up in Costa Rica. We left when I was 5 years old from India to the country where my father was from. And I lived in Costa Rica for almost 15 years before I came to America in the early 90s.
Oh, wow. So what do you remember about your childhood? I'm sure you don't remember much about India because you were, just a little girl, but what do you remember about going to Costa Rica?
Well, I do remember when we left India, I'm thinking about it, my life was going to change. So I do remember being in the plane and arriving long plane. I'm sure I slept a lot. But I do remember getting to Costa Rica, to the city, which is San Jose, and seeing a lot of lights through the window. I was excited, thinking my life is going to change. And it was pretty cool as a little girl seeing all that stuff. But so I didn't know exactly what was expecting from me in Costa Rica. In my mind, it's just, I'm going to live with my father, my mother, and have it like a normal life. And that was not the case. So when I moved to Costa Rica, I have a brother came with me. He was a younger brother. So him and I, and thinking that things are going to change. Literally that I didn't know was really what was going to expecting in that country for me. Shortly after we moved there, my mother brought him in to live with us in our same house. And she introduced Daming as one of our older brothers, which I really know it was a brother exist, but we embraced him as a brother. And these men start sexually abusing me at the age of 5. So in all that, these men living in the same house, my father was witness about her affair with this man. So my father started drinking a lot of alcohol. He became an alcoholic, and my mother was drinking a lot too. And of course, every time my father was getting drunk, he used to come to the house and want to break things, want to break doors, and everything was, want to break. And I remember every time he was drunk, he wants to chase my mother with a machete to kill her. And I remember him, my brother and I, as little kids, running around, trying to get him. That way he didn't kill my mother. But in the midst of all that, my mother was, she was doing witchcraft. And one thing I always say, that was, I think, one of the biggest open doors that she opened the door for the enemy was start doing that stuff in my house. So as you know, I grew up in a very dysfunctional home. Here I have my father an alcoholic. My mother was drinking, having an affair with the man in the same house, and the same man who was she having an affair. He is sexually abusing me, sexually abusing my brother. I was witness all that. And of course, I told my mother a couple times that he was doing that, and she never believed me. She say I was a liar. It was something in my mother that she started hating me so much, to the point that the physically and the mentally and the emotional abuse, it was so much there for me. And to my brother, but I think I was the one get more beat than my brother did. I don't know, for whatever reason, she just hated me so much. I remember, part of the things that I wrote in my book was one of the ways that she used to, hurt me so much was, she was sometimes leave me on the weekends with my brother, tied in chains and the table. Tied like a dog, if you say that. Not food, no nothing. So my little brother and I, we used to, be in that room for the whole weekend, and doing everything, our needs in that room. And that was part of her to, do, kind of punish me. Another way they used to do is they used to tie me from my hair, tied in the ceiling, like from my ponytail, leave me up in the ceiling for hours, like a piñata, if you call that. Then they used to pull my father. One time he got so mad with me, and he pulled every single fingernail, and that was a way for them to do. They hit. Sometimes they used to hit me so much too, I was bleeding. And all that, I have so many bruises, and I actually have a lot of scars on my body. And I remember years ago, I did in a conference, and I told the lady, I couldn't really use a bathing suit, stuff like that. And she said to me, honey, those scars are beauty marks. And I never forget that. And I realized that, you know what? That is something so true. So now I wear bathing suit when I go and I do that stuff. But so that was a way. And of course, I think the more painful situation that I embraced growing up, it was the sexual abuse that this man did to me. Constantly, every day he was sexually abusing me. And when I was almost 9 years old, my mother told me that she wants to bring me to the city. And of course, as a little girl, I want to be able to spend time with my mother. And she just telling me, I want to bring you to the city. And I believe her, and we went to the city, and I find myself living in this home that she left me. And I remember being in the room and cry like a little girl and telling the lady, where's my mom? Why is my mom not coming back? But I also believe that she went and got me a toy. And I literally find out that was the first time I was only 9 years old. And I have a customer. It was a shoemaker. So this man was supposed to come in the evening. And I remember the brothel that I was staying, it was right next to a bar. And the woman, she runs the brothel, but she also worked in a bar. And she walked out right to the bar and left the door open. And I was able to walk outside, cross the street. I'm in the city now, cross the street, get into the gas station, and it was a phone booth. And I'm crying and crying and crying. This man came and asked me, little girl, why are you crying? And I said, I want to go home. And he said, where's home? I told him where my house was, and he drove me to my mother's house. It took him about 2.5 hours to get there. When I got to the house, my mother was so upset with me. And yeah, I was so excited because I was going back home. And I remember saying, Mommy, I'm home. And she's like, what are you doing in here? You're not supposed to be here. And I said, Mom, I don't want to be in the house. I want to be home. So she left me. Of course, she left me to stay in the house. And at the same time, this man continued abusing me. The beat is still there. The verbal abuse still there. The whole package was there, if you're gonna call that. And then one day, my mother smokes a lot. So every time that she used to smoke, she used to turn off the cigarettes in my arms. And one day she said to me, I want for you to go to get me some stuff to the store. And back in those years, it was something like what we call here in America, like a convenience store. It was very small place, but you can go there and get your stuff. And my mother asked me to go get her cigarettes. And she used to say, but I want you in here in 5 minutes. Now, I had to walk and run through the woods, because from my house to the store, it was about 20 minutes, but I had to be back in 5 minutes, because if I didn't get back on time, she was gonna beat me really bad. So I went to the store, and as I'm going to the store, I heard someone playing the tambourine. And as a little girl, I was curious. I want to know what's that sounds. And I walk and I find myself in one house. They were having church service. And I remember when I walked in there, they welcomed me. They told me, come on. I went inside. They treat me so good with so much love. And I feel that love that I had not felt for all those years. And it was a little guy. It was a pastor with so much fire. And he said to me, is anybody want to accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior? Like, I didn't know exactly what was happening, but I just want it. I'm young and I want that. So I remember raise my hand and say, me, I want that. And I wasn't sure exactly what I was doing, but that day I came to Christ. And of course, you
That's
know,
amazing.
and a lot of
How
times,
old, sorry to interrupt you. How old were you when this happened?
I was 12 years old.
Okay.
I was 12. And yeah, I was excited. And in my mind, I think things is going to change. Now I'm come to Christ. And that happens a lot. Sometimes as a Christians, as a new Christians, we believe that our life is going to change because now we came to Christ. And that is not true. Actually, is when really things start going a different direction. And I used to go to church, to the house, and then go home and get raped every day with this man. And I used to say myself, I'm serving God, but all these things that happens to me. But yeah, I never blame God for the things that happens to me, because I know that God is not the author of the bad things that happens to people. He is not. He's a good God. He loves us, and he's there with us through it. We just sometimes don't see it. And you know why I know I'm witness to that? Because see, the devil could have killed me at that time, but he couldn't. He was not successful because God was there the whole time by myself. So of course, so now I'm going home, get raped, go to church, go home, get raped. And again, it's not God's fault. This is the devil who is using this man to be a tool to want to destroy me. So I was almost 13 years old, and my mother asked me, that time, between that age, my mother brought another boy into the house, and she said to me, this is another brother that I have. But turned out that was a half brother who abusing me sexually too. So now I got two men living in my home, abusing me every day. Almost at 13 years old, my mom said to me, Sioni, I want to take you to the city. I want for you to be a babysitter. And that time, I'm like, this is my way out. I'm going to live in the city as a babysitter. Nobody's going to hurt me anymore. So I went, and I remember being the train station, getting the train and looking up through the windows and excited about the new things that's going to happen to me. The same thoughts I had when I was 5 years old coming to Costa Rica, I had them in that train, thinking my life is going to change. Something better is coming for me. And as we got into the city, I remember my mother lead me in this house, and I saw her going down to the steps and calling her, "Mommy, where are you going? Why are you leaving me?" And she never turned back and realized that she had left me in there. Now, at that time, I was find myself being sold for second time in this brothel. She left me for 3 years. 3 years of my life, having between 6, 7, 8 customers a day. I was so young. It was 2 other women in there who was also being trafficking. And I remember I described the room how it was. It was really great. It was really sad place. But I was left there, and it was no chance for me to go back. So I decided to just change the way I was thinking. There was these 2 girls was using drugs, because we know that, now as a grown woman, I realized that that was the one way for them to cope the pain and the suffering that they will feel. But see, I had experienced something different when I was 12, that I say, you know what, I'm not going to use these drugs. I'm not going to do this, because I know God is going to take me out of this place. And I remember they was telling them, you know what, you don't have to do that. God's going to take you out of this place. And they looked me like I was crazy. They were saying, what are you talking about? Look at what we are. How can you think God's going to take out of this place? We are nothing but use every day. That's all we good for. We just a piece of furniture that we can be used every day. So I remember one time after being there for 3 years, yes, I was very broken. I was feeling that, nobody cares for me. Yes, I have made believe that, that was the place where I belong. But one day I remember I started making some noodles, ramen noodle soup, because I was hungry. We didn't get to feed much. We would just, use it every day. And then I boiled this ramen noodle soup, and the house got in fire, the house that we were in. And once the house got in fire, everybody's running everywhere. And of course, I find the opportunity to jump out of the window, a 3-story house. And I remember when I fall down the ground, I didn't thinking to turn back. I just want to run. And that's exactly what I did. I run. And I got to this bus. And I know I must be very terrified, disturbed. I don't know, but this lady came from nowhere, and she said to me, "Do you have money to pay your fare back home?" And I say, "No." I say, "Okay, I'll pay your fare." And I remember getting back home, and the first thing I walk in, I said, "Mom, I'm home." That I can see her face. She was so disturbed and angry. And her eyes looking at me, "What are you doing in here?" She didn't want me to be back home. And I said, "Mom, I want to come home." See, that's the only place I knew. That was the only place I have home. So I got
How
home.
did that make you feel that how did that make you feel that your mother didn't want you home? Every time you went back, you saw that she was sad.
It makes me very sad that she didn't want me. I didn't understand why she hates me so much, because, I never done anything to her. But I think now as a grown woman, I realized that maybe I became threat to her life with this man living in the house, because see, she was growing old and I was growing younger. I don't know. That's the only thing I can see, because, I did everything that I have to do to make sure I didn't make her angry, because I know to making her angry was going to be a really bad consequence for me. So I try not to make her upset. So when I got to the house and she tells me she didn't want me, it makes me feel sad. But then again, I never really have anybody to love me. So I really didn't know what really was to be being loved by your mom.
Yeah.
And for my father was the same thing. He never really cared for me. He really never stood up for me. He went along with her too.
Yeah.
So I stay with my mother, and almost that time I'm almost just 16 years old, and then she sold me for 3 times. At this time, she sold me with the man who was living in America. She sold me for some change, and for exchange me for a cow. And this man who lives in America, he came, purchased me. He came back to America. So I had to stay in America for 4 years before I had my green card and be able to come back to America. So during those 4 years, since I didn't want to leave my house, she brought the men to my house. Mm-hmm. So now, so she was bringing the customers to the house, and and then if you can say that, she created a brothel in my own home with myself. So she was bringing all the men, 3-4 men a day, and to by the age almost 18, I was already pregnant for my first child. Then I forgot to tell you that by the age of 16, I already have 3 abortions was done to me. That I didn't choose them. It was done to me because, of course, you can be pregnant. So almost 18, I find myself, I'm pregnant for my daughter, and she wants me to abort that child, and I refuse to. I stay my grounds, and I say, I want my child. And that is Shayla, who right now, she is 32 years old almost, and she is a woman of fire for the Lord. She serves God, and I can tell a little bit of story at the end, what happens to my daughter. So I refused to abort my daughter. Then during that time, I got pregnant again for my son, who is now going to be 30 years old. And a great guy, somebody who is amazing. So in 1991, it was time for me to come to America. I came to America with my son, was only a newborn baby. My daughter was almost 2 years old. And I remember looking up in the car that I was being taken to the airport, looking back and say, I would never come back to this country. It was so much pain and suffering that I experienced in that country that I was actually bitter about it. And I came to America again, thinking my life is going to change, a new country, new life, new husband, even though it was the man who purchased me. But I figured out that, you know what, my life is going to change. Shortly after 6 months, he left me in America in an apartment with no food. I was not speaking English in that time. I had no any kind of money source anyway because I wasn't working. So what did I did? I find myself prostitute myself because that's all I knew to do. Yeah. So I start prostitute myself to feed my children. And then, but before that, it was days that I used to go to bed without eating anything because the only thing was ham, cheese, and a slice of bread. And I preferred for my little girl for them to eat before I even feed myself. I remember winter time, it was no heat in the apartment. So, I was so terrified that my children would die. So I remember I used to put my child in here, my little baby, because I was afraid for him to die. So that's what I find myself in this country, no English. So
did anyone come to your help? Did anyone come to your help?
No, it was nobody because I didn't know no one in this country. I had no family. I had nobody. And of course, I was purchased. So I was being told, you can't leave. You can't do anything. You can't work, you just being here, take care of the children. And that's exactly what I did. But then in the process of that, I left my husband come back. And every time he used to come back, he used to hit me. He used to, punch me, hit me so much. And I allowed that because, see, in my dysfunction way to think that was okay for me to do. And we know that is not okay. God didn't create us to be a doormats.
Yeah.
So, the physical abuse was there. The mental abuse was there. This man will call me every name and treat me like a garbage. Into one day I started going to church and of course I got bruises in my body, and this lady in the church asking me what's happening to me. And yeah, a lot of times we go to church and we put ourselves these nice masks and we don't want to tell people anything because we feel like, what? Christians, we're not supposed to say anything. Everything is supposed to be okay.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I was so broken and destroyed inside. I wanted to scream so loud, but I didn't want, because I didn't want people to see what really was happening to me. And then finally I told this lady one day, I want for you to pray for me because my husband is beating me every day. And then they start praying for me. But one day I remember walking to my house and find him abusing my little baby boy. And at that time, I lost it. I just didn't care. I said, you know what? I'm not going to be that mother that I have. I'm going to be someone different. I want to be a mother who my children one day, they're going to feel proud about me. They're going to tell me, Mom, thank you for doing what you did for me. And thank you for being that good mom. And when I saw this man abusing my son, I jumped and I want to kill him. I want to destroy him. I was so angry. And he called the cops on me. And when the cops show up, I told him before the cops come, if these cops don't take me today, I'm going to kill you. And so when the cops show up, he told the cops, she just very sick, and I called the cops, I called the ambulance. So they left and they didn't do anything. And that was the day when I chose to say, you know what, I'm walking out of this relationship because this man is not good for me.
So how were you able to, escape that relationship with your husband?
So in 2003, I got a phone call. I remember I was in the kitchen cooking a meal for my kids when the voice that I haven't heard for over 20 years, all those years, because I didn't get in contact with him anymore. He said to me, Sioni, your mother is dying. And I say, you know what? I'm going to go to see her. I got to go see this woman. And and in my heart, I thought I have forgive her because I have not seen her for all those years. And then I remember going to the hospital. As I'm going up the steps to the hospital, I find my brother who came with me from India. He said to me, what are you doing in here? Why are you going to see that woman? She's so evil. And I say, Umberto, I said to my brother, we had to forgive her. So I remember as I'm going to the hospital, my father came, grabbed my hands, brought me up to the floor where my mother was. As I'm walking in, I could not see. My mother was in life support. She has had 4 heart attacks in 48 hours. So she was in life support. And she got hoses all over her body and she was swollen. It was even hard to know that that was my mom. And I remember as I walk into the room, I grabbed her hands tight and I said, Mom, I just want to tell you that I have forgive you for everything you done in my life. I forgive you for everything you did to me. And I said to her, I want you to be part of my children's life. I want for you to be part of my life. I need you. And the more I telling her this, she started jumping out of the bed. Like it was pretty scary. And I see the nurse and the doctor rush to the bed and tell me, your mother is coming back, keep talking. So I became so like inside me, it was just like I just want to tell her so much. I said, Mom, I forgive you, I love you. And then I said myself, because you know what, if God forgive me, who I am not to forgive you. And that is exactly what happened. So she started jumping and the whole thing. I remember the priest came because she was dying. So the priest came to throw some wood. I don't know exactly. And I told him, you don't understand, leave the room. My mother needs salvation. And then, so I have a room, I have a stay in the hotel, about maybe a 5 minutes walking distance to the hospital. And I stay in that hotel for 1 month, because in Costa Rica and those hospitals, you have a patient share 30 people in one room, and each person had to take care of themselves. You don't have your own private nurse, you don't have your private room. So I decided to stay by my mother's side every day, going to the hospital from 7 in the morning to 10 p.m. I was bathing her, I was cleaning her, feeding her, cutting her nails, doing everything that she needs to be taken care. And but I want to go back really quick, because after 8 days, after the next day, I came back and I said, Mom, if you can hear me, please, grab, press my fingers. And she started doing that. Eventually they took the life support of her. She was able to breathe in her own, and I stay and every day come and do what she has to do. And I remember in that month she got so well, and she was able to go back home. So I was able to walk with my mom out of the hospital and brought it home before I came to America. But when I left her in that house, she said to me, how can you be so good to me when I was so bad to you? I don't deserve what you're doing to me. And I remember looking at her eyes and saying, Mom, I love you because God has forgiven me. I don't deserve the God of love, but he died on the cross for me too. I don't deserve, but he did it. And then I left Costa Rica, and then shortly after, and that month that I got back, I met my husband now, who is he was on his way to Iraq. I was working I was working with the soldiers as a civilian, and I met my husband. We got married, and then now him and I, we are serving God together. We're very involved with ministries. He's a great man. He's a gift from God. And then when I married him, my daughter was only almost 13 and my son was 11. So there, see my husband as dad. He was there for every school activities. When my children graduated from college, he was there. So he is a big part of my children's life, and I love him. He's a good man.
Praise God for that, for your husband and how God brought him into your life. But tell us, like, when you first got married, what kind of challenges did you face? Because, you've never experienced a loving, trusting relationship before. So was it difficult for you to accept this man and accept his love and love him back?
I think the question will be for him, the challenge that he got me, because I didn't trust him. I didn't believe it. I was very angry. I was bitter. I was very broken. And every time he tells me he loves me, I looked at him and said, you don't love me. You want something from me. There's no way you're going to love me. There's no way you can love me. So it took me many, many years to win his trust and to know that he really loves me, that he really cares for me. But in 2005, we got married. We went back to Costa Rica, and to me, he was going to meet my parents. Now, I had chose to forgive them, but my husband has a really hard time to go meet these people that have hurt so much his wife. But, you know, as a good husband and a good Christian, he said, I take the challenge. I'm going to visit your parents because it's important for you. And what is important for you is important for me. So he fasted the whole time we were there. I took it very personal because I'm like, why are you fasting? I mean, it's not like you're going to see these monsters. But yeah, remember, sometimes I was broken. I didn't know that really, I had chose to forgive them. But remember, a lot of times, just because we forgive someone doesn't mean that that person still not doing wrong things to you. We chose to forgive. God empowers the forgiveness because we can't forgive in our own because it's hard. It's just natural not to forgive people. We want to get back to them. We want to pay back, right, kind of thing. So we went in there. I remember walk up to the steps and say, my mom, my husband is downstairs. If he's not welcome, I'm not welcome. So now he's in his mind, he's going to tell these people off. But God did something so beautiful in his life. So by the time he gets to talk to my parents, maybe 10, 15 minutes into a conversation, he finds himself, I'm not mad anymore. I'm supposed to be really mad with these people. Yeah. And he wasn't mad. So my parents both came to Christ. My husband actually led them to the prayer of salvation. 2014, my mother passed away. I went to the funeral. I find in that funeral 4 men who were raping me when I was a little kid. And younger, that was the customers that my mother used to bring to her house. And I know that in my mind, I had to choose to forgive them because I know it was the right thing to do. But it was so hard and confused looking at my mother in that coffin, because I find myself, what that I'm crying for, that I'm crying because she's dead, that I'm crying because I never know was it really to have a good mom, that I'm crying because she never really believed me. So it was really, really, a bucket of emotions, if you can call that, because I wasn't sure what did I cry for, but I was just crying. In the process that I'm crying, I find somebody hugging me so tight and telling me, forgive me, forgive me. And that was my brother, the brother who was raping me. My another one came from India, the other brother. And I remember I looked at him, I said, you know what, I had just forgive you many, many, many years. That was the brother who made the call for me to come to Costa Rica in 2003. I looked at him, I said, you know what, I have forgive you many, many years ago. And of course, I forgive you. I love you. I want for you to be part of my life. I find myself, that was the only person I really have much left, besides my little brother. And that's what happened. So here I am, find myself in America, 2 beautiful children. My daughter, actually, she has a master's degree in science and theology. My son, he is a captain in the United States of America. He's a civil engineer. Mary, I have 4 grandchildren. So how can we say, God was not in here. God was like, just in the book of Esther, we read the story about Esther in the Bible. We find that God is not mentioned once, but his fingerprints are all over the book. Same thing with the story of Hope, right? Yeah. The devil just tried to destroy him, tried to take everything away from him. And what God did, he gave him in double portion. And that's how I feel right now. I feel that God has, reward me with double portion because I have a really good family. I love my children. They love me. And I became that mom that I never had. I was the opposite. Yeah. I took the vow and I said, I never want to be that woman. I want to be someone else. And that's my story.
Yeah. And you know what, even I couldn't have done a better job of summarizing the way you did, that your story had God's fingerprints all over. And even though the beginning was hard and painful, and like you said, the devil tried to steal and destroy, but God rescued you, redeemed you. And not only that, he restored, he gave back everything that you lost 10 times more, probably even many more times more than what you previously had. It was such a joy and pleasure speaking with you, Sioni. And I feel so encouraged by our conversation. And it just makes me want to worship God, praise him, for how he works on our behalf, how he turns our story around, and all for his glory. So thank you for being a guest on our show.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for inviting me. Have a good day. Bye-bye now.
Bye.